Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Axon started out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. Imagine having 100 years of tire and wheel knowledge in your back pocket the next time you sell a piece of ag equipment. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit agmarkets.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast number 252. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For more information, go to agmarkets.com.
You know what? Today, I lost my knife. I can't find it anywhere.
Your pocket knife?
Yeah.
Was it a Alliance Tire branded pocket knife?
No, but that would be awesome.
I tell you what, if you want one of those, you should go to marketing at agmarkets.com and they will give you for free, totally for free. They'll give you an Alliance Tire branded pocket knife.
Right on. That's fantastic.
I mean, so if you were you wanted to walk around with some steel in your pocket,
Right.
that's the best thing that you get one for free. So go to go to marketing at agmarkets.com and they will send you a free pocket knife from Alliance Tire. Give them your details, tell them Moving Iron Podcast sent you, and check that out. Jesse and the gang will send you over a brand new pocket knife that you can have in your pocket to open letters or anything you want, whittle something.
Yeah.
You could try to maybe make a rocking chair out of a log.
You could.
So check that out. If you're looking for something like that, get the folks over there at Axon Tire email at marketing at agmarkets.com to get that awesome pocket knife. You can also go to Valley Transportation, and they've been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransinc.com for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And finally, no matter how you buy your ag equipment, how do you like to buy your ag equipment? Dealer, auction, or a private party?
All three.
Really? I mean, it's a solid mix, right?
It is.
Okay. But if you like to do that, go to agdirect.com, and you can even apply online at agdirect.com, and they can help you with all your financing options, no matter what you're looking for, right?
Very quick, very easy.
Very quick, very easy. If you want a 6-month note or a 27-year note, I'm just kidding about that. That's a joke.
2 or 7.
2 or 7. If you're looking for something like that, or looking at their amazing different lease options, if you're into that, check that out at agdirect.com, and you can get all your financing options there. So go to agdirect.com for all your leasing and financing needs of your ag equipment through a dealer, auction, or a private party. So make sure you check that out. Aaron Fennell is back here with me, co-host extraordinaire, to talk about what's going on.
Extraordinaire.
I mean, that's
certified. Absolutely.
You didn't have to take a test or anything.
Nope.
Just happened. Just happened.
Here you go. Bam, done.
It's definitely one of those cool things. So, Aaron and I we've known each other for how long?
Oh, man.
10 years, 15 years now? 10 years?
Well, when did you first come out here?
Let's see, 2010? 2009. So 2009 started working out here.
Okay.
So we sort of knew each other then. I was the evil used equipment guy that was messing up all your deals.
The asshole.
Yeah. And then,
and that, Dave, is why it gets the little black E.
So I started doing this in 2000. I came out to 21st Century Equipment in 2009. And it was I started building the used equipment department, right? And there were plenty of guys ahead of me that had laid a lot of groundwork ahead of me. And what I was really good at was diving into the nuts and bolts of the used equipment process, right? Understanding trade cycles, washout cycles, doing all those kind of things, and trying to figure out where we were headed because we were in an incredible upswing in the marketplace. Things were on fire. We were selling more new equipment that we could possibly do, generate all this used equipment behind it, and we weren't selling used equipment because we weren't focusing on it. We weren't selling a lot of used equipment because everybody had so much money that they were buying a lot of new equipment, right? And we had this used equipment issue. And I was sitting in my office one day thinking about how in the world are we going to possibly move this stuff in this marketplace, in this area that we cover, with our sales guys that we cover. And I started thinking back to my full equipment days and working with the guys like Ryan Brule and all these different guys that I worked with, watching what they do, and it dawned on me, hey, you know what? We need to figure out how to build our network of dealers that we're working with. Start going through the motions of how are we going to functionally, trade our whatevers for their whatevers, trade their problem for our problem, and their problem is not a problem to us, so we're trying to figure our way through this. And I started thinking through that, and I'm like, this is not the Cat Challenger word anymore. I don't have 32 dealers to work with.
Right.
I've got 3,000 dealers to work with, right? And I'm trying to figure that whole thing out. And so I went to my boss at the time, Scott Hill at the time, and I was like, hey, I got this plan, got this idea. I've seen it work before because, where I came from. And what I need to find is a guy that can be just solely focused on selling used equipment. Not evaluating, not worrying about washout cycles, not trying to guess where the market's going to go, just functionally one deal at a time trying to figure this thing out. And he looked at me, he's like, well, that's your job. I'm like, I hear you. You're right, it is my job. But here's the function. Here's the functional steps that I think why we need to do that. I laid it all out and put it, and he looked at me, he's like, you know what? Good idea. I like where you're going from. I got the perfect guy for you. I go, great. Let's get this guy on the phone. Let's talk to him. He's like, nope, he's in Alliance. And his name's Aaron Fennell. And I go, that fucking guy? I don't want that. Are you serious right now? He was like, he's like, yeah, Aaron Fennell is a guy that he sells the hell out of stuff. He loves selling used equipment, and he's an equipment nerd. And I go, neither one of those things are what I'm looking for. So we sat there, we went through the thing, and I think we were at was it a customer appreciation, a customer meeting, or
it was customer appreciation rolled into, was that the planners?
I don't remember.
Tractors?
I don't remember what it was.
I don't know, something.
But we
were presenters for some piece of machinery.
Yeah. And we were sitting at this table, so I pull him to the side, and I'm like, hey, man, I got this idea. Here's what it is. And in typical Casey fashion, I got my pen out, and there's these paper tablecloths. And I'm like drawing all over the page, like doing this different stuff, and like, here's what we're doing, here's what it looks like, blah, blah, blah. It's a long road to get to where you're at, building your network and those kind of things. But I go, I did it back here with this small little microcosm of the world. And I've kind of built that, a little bit of that here, but I don't have time to functionally focus on all those kind of things,
right,
and do the other stuff that we need to have done. And I go, here's the deal. I want to test this with you, and here's what we're going to do. And so we started going down this path, and, 2009 to 2022 now. It's, we're, 11, 13, 12 years in this deal now? Right? So 12 years.
No. Yeah, because 10 was the first year.
Yeah, so 2010 was the first year. And it was it was very much a learning curve for all of us. And
everybody.
You know what I mean? Because it was, I'm not saying like this didn't exist before, like we've invented something that never existed before. But at the time, when that was going on, there were plenty of guys that were quote-unquote remarketing managers. Right? And how they fit in that spectrum was varied, Some guys were like, I do the evaluations, but I also have like 15 farmers I call on type of thing.
Right.
And then you had the guys that were like, all I do is evaluations. And there's some guys that are like, I do the evaluations and wholesale everything too. And then there were some guys like that were just strictly focused on the process. And at the time, where I was at in that mix was I was kind of in the middle of all that. I didn't have to call on any end user, any farmers, but
the rest of it though.
I wholesaled a little bit. I focused on the process. I did all that stuff.
Which is funny. By the way, I never knew that Scott said that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That was him, yeah. And you're lucky he was your fan because I'm like, no.
Like our boss. Really? Thanks, buddy. I got it. But no, that's wild. That is cool.
So we started doing this in 2010, and that was that February timeframe, if I remember right.
Nope.
It wasn't
right after the first year.
But I'm saying, like, when we sit down and had the powwow.
No, when we went to lunch and everything that day.
Was that the first of the year?
That was the day I said yes. Was that?
But
day.
the day I was drawing on the paper.
Oh, that was like October of 09.
Okay, all right. So we done. Yeah, okay, that's right. And you were like, because I remember you told me you were like, "Yep, I'm all in, man. I love this. This is exactly what I wanted to do. Everything."
Right.
He was, but I'm still going to keep my 20 customers and that I call on. I'm like, no, you're not, dude. and you're like, yeah, man. I'm keeping these guys. I'm doing this. I'm keeping these 20 customers. And I said, man, I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. When you're out chasing planters, or chasing combines, or chasing air drills, or whatever it is, that's also peak season for you to be selling those things to other dealers.
Right.
I go, so here's the deal. There's a transition period of any sales job. There's always a transition period. But here's the thing. I go, this spring is your last spring that has any farmers as you're calling on.
Right.
And you're like, oh, whatever, this isn't going to work, man. And I go, I promise you, man, you're going to be more busy than you could than you've ever been in the field. And I remember you looked at me and you were like, there's no possible way that I could be busier than I am right now. And lo and behold.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's a different kind of busy, though, right?
Oh, yeah. It's never, I mean, almost literally never physical.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
But it is, yeah, I mean, you might be putting out a fire at 9 o'clock at night on something in Illinois.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Shit that was supposed to be fixed. I'll get a hold of parts, see if I can get a hold of somebody and look it up, see if we have one or somebody's got one and ship it, you know, stuff like that. So which is similar to the other thing because your local guy's going to call you. Yeah. But it's also, well, if our store has it, and then that's also your parts guy, and, you know, versus all he knows is me here. Right. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
That type of deal.
Yep.
And it's so different. The dealer to dealer stuff is just night and day different.
Yep. That was that whole kind of trying to spin that. So I was trying to model what we were doing off of what I knew. Right. And good, bad, or otherwise, that's all I knew. Right. So I was trying to sit there. I'm like, this is what I know works. I've seen it work, and I know this absolutely will work. I just have to get buy-in from everybody around me because what I'm asking people to do here is 1,000% different than what we're doing right now. Right. Up until I'd gotten there, with the exception of a few people, it was very much a guy that was really looking at trying to grow and build the auction market and trying to grow these things and do those kind of things.
Yeah.
And do all those things. There's the drilling into this is how you need to price stuff, how you need to grow things, what the margins need to look like based on. I don't say those processes weren't there, but they weren't readily used, right? I mean, it was just kind of like we're trying to make a deal happen, and we're going to do whatever we can. Yeah. And it was one of my fondest memories early on in this deal. So I'm like 2.5 months in, and remember we used to have those sales meetings at the Recon Center. Yep. And we're sitting in there, and I'm doing my thing or whatever, and Aaron, you were working on a 9620, I think, if I remember right. 9620, and you walk up to me and you're like, "Hey, dude, I need some more money on that 9620." Great, because I'm always a plus or minus 10 guy. I mean, I'm not that awesome, right? But it's if I'm within, we're within $10,000, right? So let's talk about it. And you're like, I need like 40 grand in this 9620, and I'm like, what? So we sit down, I pop open the laptop, we're going through the deal, and I go, okay, so And this is like months before any of this
Right.
had even come up.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, and I go, help me understand. I go, so you want to put as much in it as retail price? and you go, yeah, but you understand, like my guy over here is doing this right here, and I can trade this over here, and I can move these 3 things, and I'm gonna sell this deal over here on the backside, then I'm gonna make 10 grand. I go, so you're gonna do all of that and only make 10 grand? And you're like, yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, I'm gonna sell 4 or 5 pieces, make $2,000-$3,000. I go, totally fine with all that, but I'm not putting 40 grand more in this machine. And you look at me with this look on your face, like, what an asshole, dude. Like, well, who do you think you are?
Right.
Telling me.
Oh, absolutely.
Telling me I can't do that. And
Dude, there was. It's so funny where we are today because there was times early on I wouldn't have given you a glass of water if you were on fire, man. Oh, I'd get so pissed at you. And as you were mentioning, doing some wholesaling, every time I'd see that come through, I'd be like, oh, son of a bitch. I'd be so pissed off because I loved that part. You know, I worked with a handful of wholesalers, and I had a couple dealers that I, by accident, had sold stuff to and stayed in touch with, you know, and that kind of thing. So anytime you would do something, I'm like, ugh. So actually, when you mentioned that Nogalala that night, I was like, God, where's a pen? Let's get this going.
that was such a crazy road to how we got here. So 2010 comes around, you come on full bore, you finish out that spring with those select group of customers that you've got.
No, I did the whole year.
Did you finish out the whole year?
Yep.
Okay, so you finished out. So 2011, your first full time
The dungeon.
the dungeon days, right? And we go into the dungeon, and the dungeon was the so in Bridgeport we got a dealership. You know, we got the actual dealership site. But we got a place downtown that was actually an old Case dealership.
International
Dealership. 50 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's got a big shop, and they transformed part of the front into a training center to where you can do different stuff with that. But there was an office in there, the old service manager's office. And my wife brought this up to me the other day because every once in a while she'd come over and we'd go eat lunch, whatever, and she'd come in there, and this area, we had 2 desks. 2 full-size desks.
With a filing cabinet in between. And my desk touched the wall, and your desk almost touched the wall.
It's just open, like you get the door open.
Right.
So we had this, and then behind us, we had a whole, like a
credenza thing.
credenza type thing in the back. We had that little mini fridge.
Right.
So
and shelves of tractors.
shelves of tractors. And I'm thinking, we had a welcome, remember that welcome mat we had?
Right.
Open the door, and he had this welcome mat sitting in there. So we get Aaron and I get in there, and we start kind of walking through this thing and trying to figure this whole thing out. And up into that, we had merged with another dealership, KJ at the time, and we were going through all of that uproar and what that was going on there, and we're trying to make things happen and do some creative things and look outside the box. And we had so many stumbling blocks along the way.
Oh, yeah.
So many stumbling blocks along the way.
Well, it was so Greek to everybody.
Yeah.
It was so out of the box of culture at the time, you know?
Yeah. And I remember going like, okay, dude.
Well, in the country, there was.
That, on the ag side, there wasn't that many people, right? I was trying to model this after what I saw happen on the construction side of the business and how that whole thing worked and what that looked like. And even though I was on the ag side, fully, it was very much the same structure, right? Very much the same structure. I watched one guy do something and it worked for him, and it did not work for me like it worked for him. Right. It just did not work the same. But it was the same principles, you know, that you could base your things around and build those principles around. And I remember watching him go from, he had the same 32 dealers that I had. Right. But they all wanted, you know, they were trading wheel loaders and excavators and motor graders, and you run right down the line. And I'm like, this thing's freaking like what he's doing. I'm just gonna get on the phone and call. And it just wasn't the same, right?
Right.
And so my vision was, hey man, I'm gonna come here, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but with John Deere. And it's gonna be a whole different. I mean, holy shit, it's gonna be.
Yep.
It's gonna be epic, and it wasn't. It was not the same. Like, it was like you're talking to ABC guy of a 15-store dealership at one particular location. That's one sales guy there.
Right.
And you're like, hey, man, I'm talking to me. What kind of deal can you give me on this? Hell, well, retail price is whatever.
Right.
I hear you. Awesome. Great. What can I buy it for? You know what I mean? Like, try to do the whole wholesale thing, you know?
Yep.
And working through all of that, going through all of that situation, going into that 2010 year, the one thing, if you've never worked with Aaron, you never dealt with Aaron works at the speed of light, right? So it's a very much it happens quick, which is why he's so good at what he does, right? It's the speed of transaction, the speed of getting things from point A to point B.
Except in the last 2 years, but 18 months.
Well, that's because of just lack of availability. That's not because
or everything is late.
Mm-hmm.
So
pushing through all that stuff through, there was one time where, okay, Aaron's a farm kid, grew up on a farm, and loves being an equipment guy. Like, if there's anything that if you wanted to put your thumb on one thing that you could say that defines Aaron Fennell, that's being an equipment guy, right?
Yep.
I remember we'd be driving down the road and he'd be like, oh God, look at that over there. And I'm like, yeah, it's a Rome disc, dude. Awesome. High five, you know. And so going through this whole kind of setup and what this whole thing looked like, that first year I was like, okay, dude, here's the deal. Okay, we gotta mindfully go through our inventory and mine out the things that we have to get rid of. That's priority one. Priority two is the things that we need to sort of get rid of. And priority three is, hey, we just trade for this, and even though we know it's wrong, we got to let it sit here for a minute. There was a group of machines that came through. I don't remember what it was. Oh, some of those 6Rs and stuff that came from the Mormon deal, right? And we had those things come in, and we were sitting there, and I was like, here's a preliminary list. Take a look at it.
Yeah, because like everybody above me was in a meeting.
Yeah, and I go, here's a preliminary list. I'm not saying that any of this is right yet. All I'm saying is start taking a look at it, because I feel like we need to burn about 7 or 8 of these tractors right off the bat, because there was like 40 of them, or whatever the number was, 22 or whatever the number was, and they were all the exact same thing. I go, I kind of feel like there's about 8 of these that we need to kind of disperse of right away, but don't do anything until you hear from me. That whole last part of don't do anything till you hear from anything totally did not register in your head. And you're at Husker Harvest Days. And I call you on the phone. I'm like, where you at right now? And he's like, you are. And he was like, just happy as shit. I was like, you sell those tractors? He said, yeah, man. I sold like 9 of them. This is great. I go, what did I tell you not to do yet?
I cannot tell you enough. Damn it, man!
So that was our first. That was our first like real serious. Mess up. Like that was one of those deals where we were like
I figured when I got back I should probably start seeing the old customers again.
So that was like that whole year was such a learning curve for every one of us, right? Because we were trying to figure out what we couldn't do, what we couldn't do, when we could do it, when we couldn't do it, and it wasn't lack of leadership from our management.
Oh no!
It was just like so many points of information coming out at the same time.
Yeah.
And we were trying to make a decision on that stuff. So fast forward to 2011. Aaron Fennell and I, we were trying to figure out, and my deal was, we need to work in the same building together. Like we tried that for 1 year and trying to get hold of you trying to get hold of me. It was just a back and forth thing. I go, if we could work in the same building, it'd be great. Well, we didn't have space, but we had this old service manager's office right away. And just to kind of put it in perspective, I So you think about like two regular, like those old school metal desks like you would see from the 80s, right?
Yep.
Two of those with a filing cabinet, 5-drawer filing cabinet in the middle.
Yep.
All the way across. Just enough room to like scoot your seat back.
Yeah. Or if you scoot all the way back, like you want to.
Because I remember like leaning back in my chair and like hitting the thing behind me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was like we were doing
like,
that.
hey, scoot up, I'm coming through.
And we'd go through and do it. And that by itself, in my opinion, totally changed the way that we did business with 21st century equipment.
Yeah.
From a used equipment perspective.
Right.
Because I was looking at the process side of it and really trying to drive that down and trying to figure out where the market was going, what things were going. And you were giving me
instant data.
Hey, this is what I'm seeing happen right now.
Yep.
This is, and we were literally however wide a 5-drawer thing apart. I mean, what that looks like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And we would freaking go do that, and we would. I think that's where you read so much stuff about different stuff that's going on with teams and what the team looks like to build and what that growing that relationship with that team and what that looks like.
Yep.
And to be real honest with you, if we never would have worked together in the dungeon, I don't know that you and I would have ever really had that.
Oh,
I don't think we
not at all because we weren't. I mean, we got more friendly that first year, but by the time we spent 2 years in there, right?
A year and a half.
Yep. Spent a year and a half in there, and we were like extremely most casual level buddies at the start.
Yep.
And by the time the day you left, we were both in tears.
Right. It was.
So there you go.
It was one of those deals where being able to have somebody that,
and we're so complete opposite.
Yes.
But that like feeds it.
Right. Yeah, very much so. And it was the one thing about that whole deal that I would say,
which is funny because I say we're complete opposites, and you answer by going, "Yes." Oh shit!
They have
confirmed.
The one thing about that is that the data that I was compiling via the internet and the data that you were giving me via your real life conversations.
Right.
Remember how I'm like, dude, I'm looking at this over here and this is saying this. And you're telling me this. Which was not the same information that I was gathering.
Right.
Auction data, retail data, those kind of things. Because what you were giving me was real life data where the auction data, well, not that it was like year-old data or anything like that, but it was 30-day-old data,
right?
25-day-old data, 60-day data, something like that. And then the retail data is retail data. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
right.
You can ask whatever you want for a piece of equipment. And I'm looking at this auction data, and you're telling me that everyone I've talked to so far, I've talked to 7 people, and every one of them give me the same number on this, and I've not prompted them for anything. Well, that's less than what we're seeing here. We were able to start tracking and forward predicting downturns in the marketplace that we'd never seen before.
Right. Yep.
Quicker than we'd ever seen before. Because, again, I was mining all the data I could come off the internet with, and you were giving me... I just talked...
Hey, you want to see if we can move some of them 24-row planners?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you're like...
I've tried for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a problem.
Yeah. And that was one of those things where I would say that lead time between having... I mean, it's one thing to have somebody in the organization that you work with that you can have that conversation with. It's another thing when they're in the same complex that you're in.
Right.
Where you can physically walk down and have that conversation. Like, you're telling me this, but here's what I'm seeing, so explain to me why am I seeing something different than you are? You can start having those challenging conversations of, of course I think Aaron's just trying to sell stuff too cheap. Right?
Of course.
And then we start having that conversation, and I start looking at it. I'm like, "You're right, dude. I mean, this is not what we thought it was. This is X or this is Y."
Right.
And
I'm just trying to sell it.
Right. And
this is what it takes.
Yeah. And that's where that differentiation between the the art and the science of the business come together.
Yeah,
right.
I get it.
I mean, like the art of the business is I'm gonna come up with this. Here's our formula to how we get to the trade value of whatever it is that we're doing, and da da da. But the science part of it is that hard and fast data. Even the data that you pull off the internet, it's not necessarily science, right?
Right.
I mean, depending on where you're pulling it from and what that is, it's not necessarily.
It's a portion. Though.
It's a portion of it. I mean, but it's also someone's opinion, right? If you're pulling retail data down, that's someone's opinion that has a million different reasons of why they got there to it, right?
There had to be one guy to price it to start,
right?
And everybody went from there.
That poor son of a bitch. I feel sorry for that guy every time. You know what I mean? The first guy that puts that piece out.
Don't trade for it. There's not one on the internet.
Yeah, I mean that's God, dog. I feel sorry for that guy. But all that being said, that formation of the art versus the science of the business, I felt like we were able to really grow that and mold that
very much.
And that thing, and the lessons that I learned in that little, however big that 10 by 8 room, that however big that space was. It might have been 12 by 8. I'd give you that.
It wasn't 8. There ain't no way in hell that was 8. Because it was your dog and the door. That was it.
Right.
On that end.
Yeah.
Because it was literally the desk, and if I would set my chair there, and then the shelf.
Right.
Tractor shelf.
Yeah.
So it was like 6 maybe. Yeah. I don't think I could have laid crossways.
Yeah, it was tight. But it was awesome.
It was badass.
Those lessons that came out of that, as far as I'm concerned, that year and a half that I spent in that room were the best year and a half of my career.
Yeah.
Not because of the bullshit that we did, going out and playing basketball at noon and shit like that. But I mean, I'm talking
lifting weights and not being able to move my arms for a week.
But just the things that we came up with while we were down there.
Right.
And the vision and the overall scope of the stuff that we came up with really defined, I think, what we were trying to do as a used equipment department.
Yep. And
the direction that we were trying to take the overall business that we were trying to grow, right? And what that looked like, and trying to understand, like, okay, so if we're going to do this on the new side, this is what has to happen on the used side, and then trying to build that flow and that rhythm so that everybody, management got that, and understood what we were trying to do, and like, if we're going to go out and sell, 100 new combines. Well, this is what the backside looks like.
Yep.
And growing that and understanding that and really being able to focus on those key indicators of where the market was going.
Right, yeah.
Because little did we know in 2013, like we saw the writing, like we kind of started to see, the market's awesome.
Well,
but
that's because we, as a company, do so many combine deals, especially back then. We had substantially more.
Right.
It was just Combine City, man. Like, we were known throughout the U.S. as being the combine dealer,
right.
Yeah. We had a combine problem before the world did.
We had a combine problem before it was cool.
Yeah. We invented the combine problem. Woo! I always wonder where that started. But, so when the rest of the world was feeling 13, 14 on combines, we were already there, man.
Yeah.
We knew we were already dealing in them numbers, right, and crying and bleeding to death, and it sucked, but we were moving inventory.
Yep.
We were already doing it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing about that,
I actually felt 14 was an uptick.
Well, in a lot of instances, it was, man. I mean, for a lot of people, I mean, I remember sitting down there going, like, man, dude, we've got a problem here. We've got a situation that we need to figure out, because it was so off kilter that there was just no. I don't know that we could come up with a good scenario that showed we were going to be able to do anything other than liquidation.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were like, and God bless the fact that we have a great management group.
Absolutely.
At the time, I mean, our management group at the time was like, "Yep, you're right. We need to start looking at doing some of these things. Here's what liquidation, but here's what you can do. Like here's your parameters."
Right. Yep. Exactly.
And there's a lot of dealerships out there that were like, "No, I can pay a lot of interest for that."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And God bless the fact that we've got a strong management group that were like, "This is going to suck, but yeah, you're right. We need to make this happen so we can keep moving forward." And I'm just, for my first 2 jobs in this industry, for a guy that doesn't know anything about anything at the time.
Correct.
I mean, it was so, I mean, I worked at a place where I learned the used equipment business.
Right.
Then I had a place that I came to that let me do the things that I didn't know any different. I mean, I wasn't trying anything because I was like, this is the way it works. This is it.
Right.
I'm like, I've seen this work once before, so maybe it works here too, you know. And they would let me do those things, right?
Yep.
And grow those things and do those things. So that 2-year period of the transition between you going out of true hardcore territory sales into this where we're at now, that first 2 years really laid a foundation for me for my career that, to be really honest with you, if I wouldn't have had that opportunity, I don't know what would have happened. Because I had so many it was like a lab, you know, it was like a test lab.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had so many, like, okay, well, just see if this works.
Right.
All right, cool. That sucked. All right, let's see if this works. All right. That sucked, too. Oh, this worked.
I totally get it.
You know what I mean? Like, this one worked. Okay, all right, cool. So here's one little aspect that worked great for this particular microcosm.
Exactly.
And you start having these little victories along the way, and all of a sudden you put together a story that's actually a pretty good little story to tell.
Yeah.
And
Very true.
That was, if I wouldn't have had that little learning lab, that God bless the people that let me do it, I don't know that. I really don't know what would happen right now.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, and that, I get what you mean. The beauty of being able to create my world, let you drill into the lab, and not, you know, that's taking care of itself over there. Now I can really dig in.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. I mean, like, for example, I mean, remember that time we suckered Thad Shively and Tim Scholes into believing that Deadwood was halfway between.
Yeah. Where you guys at? Well, we'll be there eventually.
But
oh, that was great.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, we had an opportunity.
Yeah.
To go sit down and talk with 2 other guys.
That was almost the first summit.
It was pretty much. I mean, we sat in a room and we talked about what are you doing here, how you do this.
Well,
when you look at this, what do you do? You know,
from the yellow world, that's where you got that idea from, and that's why that day happened in the first place.
Right.
Plus, Tim and I were kind of the first 2 in the whole country doing the used thing.
Right.
Just selling used.
Just selling used, yeah. And it was a very much we had that opportunity to sit down and have that conversation with them. We spent a day and a half together?
Yeah.
Just talking about what were you doing? How'd you do this? When you do this, when you do that, you know? And it was again, just another learning lab thing. You know what I mean? It was
absolutely.
One of those great, I mean, that was, when was that? Is that late 2011?
Early fall 11, I believe.
Yeah. And, you know, we had this, but doing those kind of things and really diving into that kind of stuff, I mean, that really changed the way we looked at the business.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
yep, definitely.
I mean, it really upped the way that my reliance on you going out and doing the things that you were doing, and your reliance on me to make sure that I was dialed into what was going on because, to be real honest with you, I mean, my trade values had to reflect what was going on in the marketplace.
Exactly.
No matter how unpopular they were,
Right.
at the time, right? But we had to reflect that in the marketplace, and then be able to justify what we were going in.
And the first time that you got to use me as a reference, well, Aaron's been trying to. I don't care what he's been trying to sell them for. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah,
It's like, and you're welcome, guys.
that was always my thing. Mine was like my barometer. I mean, I go,
Yep.
we got a guy over here trying to go out and get after stuff, and I go, mind you, I am sitting 4.5 feet from him,
Yep.
so I hear the
Exactly.
conversations that he's having. Right? I go, so it's not that he is.
He's not.
Give
Yeah,
up,
I'm not
right?
giving you false information.
Right. I
In
go, so-
order to sell more shit.
It's one of those things. I go, it's just this is where the market's headed.
Yep.
And I think going into that downturn that we saw, 2014, 2015, 2016, those kind of things, everybody here went into that eyes wide open.
Oh yeah.
There was no smoke and mirrors. There
Nope.
was no like
Here it
anything like that.
comes.
We knew what was coming, right? And I can't say that for everybody out there.
No.
It was a great thing. So I think to kind of put this in perspective and to wrap this up, I'm the luckiest person on the planet for a number of reasons, but to go into an industry that, you know, going into an ag-related industry when you're not from an ag
Right.
perspective, right? I don't know why it is either. It's an intimidating thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I went into the oil business or I went into the paper business or something like that, I would just, hey, I'm going to learn about the paper business, right?
Right.
For whatever reason, going into the agriculture business is such a, I don't know how to put it. I mean, it's like one of those things where if you talk to anybody to go into a sales job that didn't grow up on a farm, to go into sell ag stuff,
Oh man.
it's the most impossible thing to get them to do that. I can promise you that whatever they were selling beforehand, there's not like 7 generations of family were selling diapers. Right?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, it's like one of those things. Like I don't understand why there's such that disconnect. To be where I'm at now and to have done the things that I've done and to work with guys like you and functionally put those things together, I'm lucky to be where I'm at because I've never worked at a bad place
Right.
to put me in a bad position or to teach me something that's so far out in left field that like what the hell are you talking about right now?
Exactly.
Right? You know?
Yep.
Like I've had, like my first job out of the gate was like working and understanding what used equipment processes looked like on pricing and how to functionally drive that market.
Right.
Then I get,
And knowing what the hell a combine was.
I barely even knew what that was. But then to go work at a place where they give you the free reign to do what you need to do when you need to do it,
Yep.
and failure's okay for a while,
Right.
figure it out, you know, and they listen to what you're saying and letting you grow and functionally do the things that you do and really
Right.
operate within this microcosm of a thing. I mean, every place I've ever worked has given me that latitude,
Right.
and it's one of those things where there's no real like lucky. Like I had an interview the other day with guys from Arrow, and the last question they asked me, like, they give you one word that described your life, what would it be? And I'm like, lucky,
Right.
because there's no.
Mine would be blessed, undeniably.
But it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm here, taking up space, but I'm being productive at the same time.
Right.
And no matter how like the lead time looks like and those kind of things and how far out
Yep.
I am with some of the stuff I come up with, because there's plenty of stuff that I come up with that guys look at me like, this is the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life.
You know why? Because just batshit crazy smart, dude. Regular people. We were talking about a project for like 3 months, and today I just finally got 25% of it. And then my eyes glazed over, and I'm like, all right, time out. I'm not going to remember anything else you say. Very different people.
Well, I mean,
but that's why. And like when you got here, you came from that established background, be it small, but had shit going, and we were ripe for it. We didn't have anything of the nature, so.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those deals where I look on it and I mean, I don't know on this podcast we've ever told the story of how Aaron and I got to where we're at, because it wasn't like I showed up and Aaron's a used equipment sales guy, you know. Right. It was like this whole thing just like came out of nothing, you know.
Yep.
And it just kind of grew into what it was, and it's just truly one of those fantastic parts of my life that I just can't imagine had I not picked the phone up and taken that call with that recruiter, you know, and done those things. Like what would you be doing right now? You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows what you'd be doing? You know, but it's just one of those things where just everything kind of fell in place and never had it's just like it was supposed to happen,
right?
You know, so long story short is, if you're listening to this and you're a used equipment guy, remarketing manager, whatever you want to call it, I'm a big fan of used equipment manager. It's my favorite title to put on this thing here. But
pre-owned equipment relocation specialist.
But if you have whatever your title is that you're doing, and you have an opportunity to bring somebody in that can make a big difference in what it is that's going on around you, whether that is just selling or bringing in the process side of it, maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. And that is 1,000% where Aaron and I, kind of that yin and yang thing was at. I mean, my strength was really trying to understand what was going on in the marketplace. Aaron's strength was making 14,000 phone calls in a day. And that was in emails and everything else that came into that.
Yep.
And maximizing those two things, smash them together, and going out and making a difference in what's going on. So,
and as far as I'm concerned, the only other thing I would honestly do right now is own the Broncos, and I don't have $2 billion, so we're good.
They're worth that much, really?
Huh?
Western Arrowhead's worth that much, huh?
Huh. That's enough out of you.
All right. Good stopping point, man. Aaron, folks want to reach out to you.
Rotten bastard.
Folks want to reach out to you, get more information about what you have going on. What's the best way to do that?
Call me, text me. Text probably better if you can. 308-760-1193. Or I am fairly active on the Ag Twitterverse at times, at aaronfintel. And my email is afintel@21equip.com.
Right on. And I'm Casey Seymour. You can find me at Moving Iron Podcast. Or you can find me at Moving Iron LLC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also go to MovingIronLLC.com, where you can find all the editions of the Moving Iron Podcast. All the blog posts are up there. Check that out. I updated everything over the weekend, so everything is up right now. My latest blog is Don't Try to Catch a Falling Knife, kind of talking about where we're going to go and what I see happening coming up with the marketplace. Check that out. Also go to Moving Iron LLC, and you can find all the information from the Moving Iron Summit coming up in Nashville from September 6th through the 7th, or 7th and the 8th, I'm sorry. And you can get all the information there about that. If you want to give me a call, you can call me at 308-765-0495, and that is the best phone number to get me at. So if you want to check that out, do so. Love to hear from you guys. It'd be good to hear from you. So
With that, I am Casey Seymour with Aaron Fennell. Let's go with some iron, folks. Out.
Axon Tire is going to have more tips, tricks, and client advice throughout the year and in September at the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville. If you're looking to sign up for the event, please head over to MovingIronLLC.com. We hope to see you there. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransitinc.com for all of your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And no matter how you buy ag equipment from a dealer, auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here.